Hello, it's author Tonya Duncan Ellis from the Sophie Washington series with another episode of Write This, my author interview show. And I'm excited today to welcome Varsha Bajaj, a Texas based children's author who I became acquainted with through a Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators group I'm in. And I last year read her book, Count Me In, and just absolutely loved it. I highly recommend it. It's just fabulous and can't wait to learn about her author journey and all the things that she's done and what she's working on now. So without further ado, I'm going to invite her on. I see that she's joined here in the live. So let me here and we can talk to her. And I'm so happy to see you guys joining in. Hope that you had a happy Thanksgiving and that you're enjoying a happy season. Hey, Varsha, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Fine. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This is fun. We get
Yeah,
to chat.
yes, and I want to tell you, really, when I've seen you at the SCBWI meetings, the few I've attended, I was too shy to say, but I just love your book so much. This book just touched me so, and the way you started it, the craft in it, and everything, I really use this to learn from. So I want to tell you how much I appreciate your work.
Well, thank you very much for your kind words. And I do wish you would come up and said hi because I would have loved to meet you.
Yeah. Hopefully, when we can get back in person, we'll see each other in person.
I know, I can't wait. I really can't wait for things to go back to normal. Hopefully 2022, right?
Right. So we're moving. This year is really literally for me the fastest in my life. It just seems like it went woo and went on. I blinked and it was over.
I know, but I'm kind of missing seeing everyone. This
Yeah.
is nice. This is nice, but I do miss seeing people.
Right. I'm really tired of being cloistered in and want to get back to normal. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you? I know you're based in Houston where I live. So you're a Houston-based children's author. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So yes, I live in Houston. I moved to Houston almost 20 some years ago in 1998. Yeah, so it's been a minute. Um, and my background, so I didn't like a lot of authors, I really didn't dream about being a writer till I was like an adult. I was always, though, a reader.
Mhm.
From when I was maybe 5, 6, I've always been a reader. And I don't remember a time in my life when I didn't have a pile of books on my bedside table. Honestly can't.
Right.
But I didn't think about writing till my kids were little.
Right. Right.
And so I was a counselor. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country in 1986 to go to graduate school. And I got my graduate degree in psychology. Um, I'm also an EDD, which is almost got my doctorate. I'm all but dissertation, not proud of the fact, but yes. And I worked as a therapist at the St. Louis University Medical Center.
Oh,
Um, and so, my journey, it has been kind of um, circuitous,
mhm.
but eventually I decided when my kids were little to try my hand at writing a picture book. And I sold it through an SCBWI event,
Oh, wow. That's great.
right? Right? It was, so I'm going to, this was my very first book. How many
Oh,
pieces do you want tonight? This is the board book edition. I couldn't find the hardcover. Um, it's somewhere around, but this was my very first picture book. and it was illustrated by Ivan Bates. And believe it or not, it is still in print 20 years down the road, which in publishing feels like a miracle. But yeah, that's how I got started.
That's awesome. And really, your psychology background, to me, that does go hand in hand with writing when you think about it.
I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree. Because um, as a therapist, you are trained to listen to other people's experiences and other people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel that there is that overlap. Uh, it's that ability to empathize with characters and with people.
Right. Yeah. Because you bring that in, and I know with Count Me In, you're bringing in the two characters, the main characters there, back and forth, showing what they're both going through.
I Yeah, so this is the paperback version. And Count Me In came out in August of 2019. So it's been out for a couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I share with kids during school visits. The very first draft of Count Me In, a draft, I don't share my first draft with anyone. Not even critique partners or anything. But the very first draft of Count Me In was not in alternating perspectives. By it was written in Karina's perspective alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I don't even know whether to call it technically a first draft. It's like I'm exploring the story. I'm getting to know the characters. I don't share it with anyone. I most often don't even use what I write in my first draft in subsequent drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one day I was writing the second draft, and um, I decided to do a writing exercise, which was to write the chapter from the perspective of one of the other characters, not the protagonist.
Right.
And so I decided to write that day in Chris's perspective.
Right. I like
That
that because I feel like it helps with the empathy, and then you've got the intergenerational, the different cultures, and it's helping kids understand different people and different things.
You're so right. You're
Mhm.
so right. I think that the alternating perspectives broadens the story.
Right, right.
You know, it just broadens the story. It allows you to see. Um, I mean, Chris was always a very important character. So was Papa. But
Mhm.
when I gave Chris his own perspective, it broadened the story.
Right, and it opens it up, makes it
Yep,
like those mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. So it's opening it up to different
exactly.
people. Mhm.
Exactly. And Chris had so much to say.
Yes, I like that. And I just love everything. And I told you I love Indian food. So I
Oh,
love all the family gatherings and the food and everything you've got in there.
oh, you've got to come over one day then.
Yeah, because there's an Indian restaurant in Sugarland. I live in Houston area, and it
Yeah.
closed during the pandemic. Bombay
Oh,
Jean, and I used to go there and get dal makhani. Is that what
oh, that's yummy.
I
Yes.
love that so much. And I was like, man, that place closed.
And so many places closed, right, during the pandemic. It's so sad. But yeah, I I loved broadening the story. It was just such an opportunity to show the power of empathy.
Right. Yeah, I really love that. Now, what are you working on now? So I saw
So
a new book you're doing or something.
I have a new book coming out in July of next year, 2022. It's called Thirst, and it's also a middle grade. And it is also published by Penguin Random House. And the editor, again, is Nancy Paulson, who edited Count Me In and some of my other picture books. And I feel incredibly lucky to work with that team again. So yes, Thirst comes out in July. I believe that we will share the cover sometime early next year, maybe Jan or Feb. We don't have the arcs yet. So yeah.
Can you share what it's about, or is it?
Absolutely, I can. Thirst is about a young girl who lives in a very poor neighborhood in Mumbai. And it is the story of how she struggles to get water
Oh, okay.
and get an education.
Right. Is it because of the pollution and things, or?
Well, it's there's so many dimensions to it. It's part of it is, in the very poor neighborhoods, water supply is not what it could be, and that's where she lives, where there are lines for water,
Wow.
and I don't want to reveal too much, but her mom is the one who typically stands in the lines to get water.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the story unfolds, she has to take that on.
Right. Oh,
So,
that's really interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And open it up. Now, what do you prefer? Picture books or middle grade, or is there one that you like better?
I can't pick. I love picture books. I really do. And if you told me you could never write a picture book again, I would be very upset.
Right.
Because I really do love picture books. Picture books are the closest to writing poetry, in my opinion.
Right.
And so I love them. And a lot of my picture books, like this one, This Is Our Baby Born Today. Again, that's the board book version.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's a hardcover illustrated by Eliza Wheeler. And then there is Home Builders that came out also in 2019. A lot of these, all three of those books are actually written in verse.
Oh, okay.
They're rhyming picture books. So I love writing picture books. But then if you told me I could never write a middle grade again, that would upset me too. So I honestly can't pick. It's a very different process.
Right. I tried to write a picture book because I was like struggling for days. And I'm like, this is harder than writing 100 pages for a middle grade for me.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, picture books. I mean, if you ask me which is
I can't hear you.
which is harder, I would have to say probably picture books in some ways. And then middle grade has its own challenges because, you have a longer story. You have to create these characters that hopefully live on and feel like your best friends. But I think, picture books, you have very few words. Most of my picture books are around 350 words.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do justice to a whole story there too.
Right. So that's something. Now, I was thinking when you were talking, I remember, were your books in some kind of Dolly Parton
Yes,
program?
yes, home builders. This
Oh,
is actually the Dolly Parton version. It's not the original hardcover. So, wow, this is just feels like such a privilege. So, Dolly Parton has the Imagination Library where she chooses um, titles every year, and they are then distributed to low-income families.
mm-hmm.
And the home builders, believe it or not, has been distributed to 500,000 homes.
Wow, that is so awesome. That must be
Right?
a wonderful feeling.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best feeling knowing that all these kids have access to it. No, what Dolly does is just so incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, how has your family reacted to your writing? Were your children still small when you started writing, or how have
They
they?
were. So when How Many Kisses came out, that was back in 2004, and my daughter was how old? Gosh, she was like 6 or 7.
Oh, okay.
Six, I think 6. And my son was maybe 7 or 8, and 8 or 9, 8 or 9. So yeah, they've seen this journey, um, and it's been amazing, because writing allowed me to work from home. It allowed me to have a flexible schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, of course, there were times when I had to be away, whether it was for a conference or um, school visits or something of that nature. But um, it's a it is a great way to focus on both family and my work.
Right. Yeah, that's really nice. And then you had small children, so then that probably helped inspire you.
It did. It really did. And sometimes I wonder if I went from picture books to middle grade as they grew up,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Right, because you're reading what they're reading and seeing what they're doing at that life stage. So,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
love that middle grade, that sweet age of being.
Isn't it great? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I love middle grade. And I'm writing um 2 books that I can't talk about in any detail. That's just how those books are contracted, but they are young middle grade.
Mm-hmm.
So, Count Me In is more 10 and up,
Right.
fifth grade and up. And these books that I'm writing now is probably more like 7, maybe even, yeah, 7 to 10. So
Okay.
young middle grade.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
do they assign some of those to you, or how does that come about? Or,
Um, this is the first time where I have signed the contract before writing the book. Typically, I write the book and then send it to my agent, Karen Weisman at Inner Brown Literary Agency, and then she sends it to my editor. That's the typical process.
right.
Um, but I've done a lot of different projects in the last few years. I did a YA anthology that's called Come On In, and that was my first short story and my first YA story.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did this one for the Ghostwriter series which was introduced by Kwame Alexander.
Oh, wow.
And this one is a short story also, but for middle grade readers. I don't have come on in right here, but I've been kind of playing with different genres and different formats. Short story was a new thing for me, and it was fun.
Right, that's cool. And then you can do the YA and do it short instead of the big long YA. Yeah, so that would be
No,
good.
so it was fun. It was fun. It's been fun to experiment with different forms and different genres. Yeah.
Now, if you had advice for some aspiring authors, what would you recommend that they do starting a career, trying to start a writing career?
Um, I first of all would recommend that you read. And there, in my mind, there's no substitute for that. I remember before I was published, I attended a conference where one of the speakers said, you should read, if you're writing a picture book, you should read 1,000 picture books before you write one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's been great advice,
Right.
and so I think I read in all genres. I read picture books, I read middle grade, I read YA, I also read adult fiction. But I just love doing that. But I would really recommend that you read. The other thing I would recommend is find your group, find your people.
Mm-hmm.
I found my people through SCBWI. I joined SCBWI Houston way back in 2001. And like I said, I even sold my first book through an event with them. So
Right.
I would say find your people. A group of people who can be truthful and frank in their critiques, and who are as committed as you are. I have also learned a tremendous amount from SCBWI conferences or any conferences hosted by anyone. Seminars and conferences have really helped me to grow with my craft.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend going to as many as you can afford, really. Because it's an investment. It's an investment in your career and an investment in your craft. So I think that's very important.
And during the pandemic, SCBWI has all these videos that have been great.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They've been amazing.
Yeah.
They've been amazing. And I really do wish that I had been able to listen to more of them. But, I was just so busy in 2020. I had that manuscript to finish, the one that's coming out next year. And then this year I have these deadlines with 2 more to write. So I've been very busy, but I've tried to make time for as many workshops as I could. I mean, I think, it's a great way to learn.
Right. Well, that is wonderful. And I'm just so happy to have this time to sit down with you and pick your brain and hear about your process. And so can you tell us where we can find you again and name your upcoming books again that people can
Absolutely. So the first one coming up is Thirst. Nancy Paulson Books, Penguin Random House, and that's July of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I hope to share the cover and in early January or maybe February. And then the other two books come out in January of 23. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. In terms of events, I think the first in-person event that's open to people that's coming up is probably Texas Library Association conference in April. But you know, I don't even know how that's all going to play out. I don't know if they will have an in-person conference. I believe that's what's planned for 22. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that happens.
Yeah, I love going to that.
I know. It's great. It's so great. I started going to Texas Library Association conference even before I was published. It's a great way to, again, learn and see what's out there and what people are publishing. So I think that I'm hoping, I'm doing a lot of school visits. I really am. But they're all on Zoom, and so they're only open to the classroom and, the school that invites me. They're not public events. But yes, I've been doing those all through the pandemic with classrooms that have read Count Me In.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So you've been so busy.
I have been a busy girl. I've been a busy girl, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Varsha, for taking this time to share with us. And everybody, buy our books. Count Me In is out. We're going to be looking forward for Thirst, and check her out. See if we can pre-order when that comes out.
I believe all of that will start in the spring of next year. Okay. But thank you, Tonya, for inviting me. I look forward to meeting you in person at the next Houston event, right?
Yes, I'll be coming right up to you.
And you'll have to be coming over for some Indian food.
Yes, that's what I really want. I love get me some of that. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Write This. Bye-bye. Bye.